Hi guys, so this is the third part of the project where I will be explaining the protobuf code as well as the client and server code that I have written in Scala. So the first part is the proto. So we have to create a folder named protobuf, and inside that we have to create a .proto file. So this is how I have created. So the syntax is proto3, and I have given it a package name. This is the name of the service, which creates a RPC function, check function, where input is the input parameters and it returns output. So inside message input, this is the time delta which will be taken as the input, and it will return a message output. So once we have created this, so before that, like for installing Scala PB, we first have to create a file in project folder, and we have to name it protoc.sbt, and we have to add these dependencies. So once this dependency is added, we then go to the build.sbt and we add the compile this part. So, and as well as the library dependencies. So once this part is done, so the next part would be to go to a terminal and run sbt clean compile. So once that is done, it will create all the external files that are needed for running our code, and here you can see that we have the semet for Scala PB, IOGRPC, NETI, and other files that we need for a successful execution. So once that is done, we will get four files in that are automatically generated by the compiler. So those are stored in target, the location of the version of your Scala, and in this source manage. So here you can see hello proto input, log analyzer, log file analyzer grpc, and output. These are created by the compiler itself. So once this is done, we can start writing the code for a client and server. So let me show you. So this is the client code. So here we have an object as well as the class for grpc client. Here first we create a channel and we define the blocking stub, and once that is done, we create a new we create an object of the grpc client class, as well as like in the main function we are getting the client, like the port that we are getting, and if the user is providing any if not providing any argument, the input, so we are taking this as input. Otherwise whatever the user inputs, we are taking that, and using the client.call server, we are calling this. So once this is done, in this call server, we are splitting the input parameters, like user is basically the giving the input time and delta, which we are splitting it here and sending it as input to our server. So blocking stub dot check function is basically creating a blocking call where we are sending the request to the check function. So check function is we have created in the server, as well as here check function. So once that is sent and we get the response from the server, we return it in response.message. Otherwise we return the message failed to execute. So coming to the Scala server code, first we are getting the values for the port and the URL that we have defined in the application.conf file, and here we are starting the start server and blocking the server until shutdown. So once that is done, we are binding the service for the server and initializing it. So once this is done, In the log file analyzer implementation, this class is generated as part of this the already generated interfaces. So here we are extending this file which is present in log file analyzer grpc. So using the scala.io.source from URL, we are calling the grpc using the time and delta, and we are calling it to the AWS Lambda and API gateway. So if it is a success, we are getting a response, we are converting it to string, and using the output we are returning it back to the client. If there is no response, we are sending the message no interval found, because the program raised an exception that there was no interval. Coming to the REST client, the same function has been carried out here, where using the source.from URL we are getting the get log count and calling the AWS API, and result equal to response dot mk string will return the result, and from that we are splitting the time and delta to get the count. Similarly, like if there is a failure, we will report that can't find count as the interval does not exist. Next part is the client.test. So in this file we are basically defining the test cases that I have created. So the first test is REST API should be able to return a correct count. So for that I have given specified a time and delta, and I'm sending it to the test function that I had created specifically for testing the web service. So if I get that output, I'm creating it returning it to be true. So in this I since like my code tests for every day, I have specified, I have hard coded the value in the log analyzer for test. For the test I am directly using this first file that got generated for 2nd November. Otherwise the count might not match on a daily basis. The second part is I'm just providing the time parameter, so it will see like if there is a successful response, it will return 0, otherwise it will return failure, that there is no delta parameter. Since I have defined op equal to 1, so it will obviously go here for testing for failure because we don't have a delta parameter. Similarly, I have created it for time. For testing the gRPC, we have written a basic server. We are initializing the server, then we are getting the client and making it a call. And if the answer is like, since I have provided a time interval which is not during the log time log file, so it will throw no interval found. The last test is to see like if the port read from the conf file is correct or not. So let me show you the executions for this. So first I have gone to my root folder, and now I will run sbt clean compile test. So this command will basically clean compile your code and run the test cases that I have written. So here we can see that all the test cases have been passed. So now let me try to run the client and server. So first we will create a client sbt clean compile run. So meanwhile I have also opened a separate tab for running the client. So now I have to specify which main class I have to run. Since my server is second number, so I will type 2 and it will start the server. So you can see that server started listening on port 50770. Now coming back to the client, so I have this function spt run main. So here I am specifying the package name dot the class, and these are my input. So let me run this. So here you can see that the result is true, interval found, because we gave the input as 247 plus minus 3.43, which is basically somewhere like 244 to 250. And in this file I already mentioned that my log file is between 240 and 259, so that is working correct. So now let me give some time interval which is not in the list. 220. So here we can see that no interval was found because 220 plus minus c is not there in our interval. So this is how we ran the gRPC client and server, and we can still see that the client is the server is still running. So let me come back here. So even for running the rest client, so we just have to change this to rest, and let me give the time interval 50 and 5. So here we can see that log entries with regex pattern for time this with delta this is 828. So this is the execution for the gRPC client and server using the terminal, and this is it. Thank you.